In 1980, Steve Carter Sr., serving as a U.S. Army officer in Oahu, Hawaii, and his wife Pat, a teacher, decided to adopt a child during his military assignment. They fell in love with a 3.5-year-old boy in foster care, a connection so strong that Pat described it as love at first sight in a 2012 interview with People magazine. On September 23, they welcomed the boy, named Tenzin Amia according to Hawaiian records, into their home permanently. Tenzin, who had been under state care for 3 years, had a background that included a native Hawaiian father and a white mother named Jane Amia, who was arrested when he was just 5 months old. This led to his placement in the foster system in June 1977. With the Carters, Tenzin's fortunes improved significantly. He was given a new name, William Stephen Tenzin Carter, often called Steve Jr., and moved to an affluent part of southern New Jersey. Growing up in the 1980s and 90s, Steve Jr. experienced a joyful childhood filled with sports and neighborhood gatherings. In time, Steve left his adopted home and got into the software game. But as an adult, he began to wonder just who his birth parents might be. By now, his purported Hawaiian heritage had become something of a family joke, with his blonde hair, blue eyes, and light complexion. Steve Sr. told the South Jersey local newspaper, "He does not strike one as being of Polynesian extraction." In fact, Steve Jr.'s curiosity was well and truly sparked when he received a DNA testing kit as a Christmas gift. The results he got back were very surprising. Apparently, he was actually of Scandinavian descent. Nonetheless, although the mystery had deepened, it seemed as if Steve's beginnings were destined to remain unclear. But then one day, he stumbled across an interesting news story that reignited his appetite to uncover his origin story. In 2011, Steve came across an article about Carlina White, an African-American woman who had been kidnapped as a baby from a hospital in Harlem, New York City. Oblivious to her past, she had grown up in Connecticut believing that her abductor was her mother. Meanwhile, her real mom and dad were less than 45 minutes travel time away. However, by researching missing people online, the 23-year-old finally discovered the truth. Indeed, it was this aspect of the story that spurred Steve into action. Genealogy and tracking down long-lost relatives had become much easier and quicker since the advent of the internet. So Steve visited one of the websites mentioned by the abducted Carlina, missingkids.com, the online resources operated by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And once there, Steve got scrolling for suitable subjects. Under an entry for a missing boy, he saw something that would turn his world upside down. The listing for the lost lad had his name down as Marks Panama Morarty Barnes and reported that he had been missing since June 1977. Accompanying the entry was an artist's impression of what Marks may have looked like as a mature man, and to Steve, it was like looking in a mirror. "I got chills," he told People in 2012. "I was like, holy crap, it's me." Utterly shocked, Steve contacted the authorities and volunteered to have his DNA tested. Eventually, after 8 long months, the results arrived, amazingly proving that Steve and Marks were indeed the same person. The software man's wife, Tracy, encouraged him to begin delving into his new past, only for a heartbreaking story to emerge. On June 21, 1977, journalist and Vietnam vet Mark Barnes had been working in the garden of his home in Nail, Oahu, Hawaii. While he was busy planting, his girlfriend Charlotte Morard took their 6-month-old son out for a stroll. The artist announced her intention to travel just a few blocks to pay a visit to a grocery store with little Marks. However, Charlotte didn't return. But at first, Mark wasn't overly concerned. According to reports, Charlotte was something of a free spirit who had been known to take extended flights of fancy before. But when 3 weeks had passed with no sign of his girlfriend or their infant son, Mark contacted the police. Even though the authorities began searching for Mark, they were unable to turn up any clues. For more than a year, heartbroken Mark continued to scour the streets of Hawaii, hoping to stumble upon his missing family. And no matter how much time passed, apparently, he never gave up hope that one day he'd be reunited with his son. Little did he know that Marks was living a new life with a new name and a different family thousands of miles away. Reportedly, the day after Charlotte and Marks had disappeared in the summer of 1977, a woman on the other side of Oahu returned home to unexpected guests. Somehow, Charlotte had gained access to the property and was loitering inside with the infant Marks. Concerned, the homeowner contacted the police. When the authorities arrived, Charlotte furnished them with a false name for herself and the baby, Jane and Tenzin Amia, with a fake date of birth. Oahu, Hawaii police were unable to connect the dots when Marks was reported missing some 3 weeks later. Heartbreakingly, before Mark could even begin searching for his son, the boy now known as Tenzin had slipped through the net. Apparently, the troubled Charlotte was soon taken to a psychiatric facility, while Marks was entrusted to the care of the state. In a cruel twist of fate, the boy ended up living in an orphanage just 30 miles from his biological father's house. A few days after she was admitted, Charlotte checked herself out of the hospital. She then disappeared completely, and so the truth about her son vanished with her. But Mark had not been the only person left wondering about Mark's fate. Jennifer, his half-sister who was 8 years older than him, was also desperate to find out the truth. In fact, in 2001, the determined woman persuaded the Hawaii authorities to reopen the case. They commissioned an artist to make a sketch of what Marks might look like as a man. This was the very composite image that led Steve to discover his secret past. More than 3 decades later, when the truth emerged, Steve hesitated to make contact with his biological family, confessing to People magazine that fear held him back. After several months, he gathered the courage to call Jennifer, and eventually, he reconnected with his biological father in California. His father, Mark, could only express his astonishment with repeated exclamations of surprise. For Steve's adoptive parents in New Jersey, the revelation was challenging. Pat admitted to feeling as though they had taken someone else's child, a sentiment she shared with People magazine after Steve Jr. disclosed his discoveries about his origins and family. However, they gradually accepted the situation, with Steve's mother sharing on The View in 2012 that adapting to the idea of sharing Steve with his biological family was tough, but ultimately believed it would lead to something beautiful. Although a face-to-face meeting between Mark, Jennifer, and the Carter family had yet to occur by 2012, a reunion seemed on the horizon. The emotional journey had been intense for everyone involved, but the Carters felt grateful for the hope their story could offer to other families with missing loved ones. For Mark and Jennifer, the internet and Steve's initiative had miraculously bridged the gap to their long-lost family member. If this story touched you, the next video might also move you. Remember to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and click the notification bell to stay updated on our latest uploads. Sending a big kiss and looking forward to sharing more stories with you.